Hi, my name is Jacob Santoro, and my presentation is about why family sizes have shrunk globally over the years. To start off, family sizes are shrinking globally because of lower birth rates. The total fertility rate has gone down in Australia, the United States, and the United Kingdom and South Korea. Some reasons for this include heightened feminist movements, more women going to college and getting jobs, decreased number of infant deaths, increased expense of having and raising children, changing cultural expectations, and people waiting longer to have children or choosing not to have them at all. So the first main example is that heightened feminist movements, higher rates of women employed or going to college. And this essentially means that women are waiting longer to have children because they want to prioritize going to college and getting a job. And they also want to ensure that they have enough money to handle starting a family. And then the third reason is just changing cultural expectations in general. The average marriage age in South Korea increased from 23.2 in 1981 to 31.3 in 2022. The marriage rate per thousand people in the United States decreased from 6.64 in 2009 to 5.56 in 2019. The birth rate per thousand people in the United States decreased from 16.03 to 13.15 from 2009 to 2019. In South Korea, the decreased birth rates have caused the number of people enrolling in colleges annually to keep going down, causing some universities to form mergers. And then some laws that were adjusted was in 2019, China changed their longstanding, and I'm sure most people know about this law, their longstanding one-child policy, and then they changed it to being able to have two children now. And then they later upped it again 4 years later in 2021 to three-child policy. But even with this, this was not shown to increase the birth rate in China nationally. And in fact, it actually lowered it somehow. Next up, we got the decreased number of infant deaths. Which is so improved healthcare is a great is the reason why this has been happening. So improved healthcare has resulted in lower infant mortality rates, parents not having to worry about having as many children, and smaller family sizes on average globally. So some things that contributed to this result were better forms of nutrition for young children, easier access and improved forms of healthcare, improved forms of nutrition for mothers, and better education to help them with informed decision making, developing forms of improved medical and pregnancy care. And then an impact was cause many parents have less stress since they are confident in the survival of children. They don't have to have as many to to ensure that at least one will survive. And then also better ways for the parents to survive and also and for them to live a good life for the rest of the time as well. And also makes couples not want to have as large of a family if they wanted to initially, I guess. Some important notes to close off this slide were education, nutrition, and healthcare were like all just correlate for a lower number of infant deaths. That's in essence why um a decreased number of infant deaths has like lowered the birth rate. But this one's probably like the best reason why like all this has happened. So moving on, the next step we got availability and accessibility of birth control. The impact of this was it allowed couples more control over family planning. Caused like this is another thing that caused smaller family sizes. And the best part, like a good part of this essentially was it allowed people to be able to wait longer to have children, but in safe ways, like perfectly legal ways and safe ways they could do so. Positive effects were that improved decision making on physical and mental health. It allowed them to focus on college and jobs, and also allowed for them the ability to have children at the right time. And then the community impact was it caused shifting, like changing viewpoints on the decision on whether or not to have children, normalizing birth control and like making it seem and it's because it's okay and I guess being more accepting of on various family structures. Um, Next up was the expense of having and raising a child. Costs have increased for the following: housing, education, healthcare, childcare, all are very important of raising a child. And then the impact caused by this is financial strain on families, couples waiting longer to have children, and couples not want to have as many children or none at all. And I know this seems like a smaller slide, but this is actually a very important reason and a very critical reason in a main and like one of the main aspects of why people wait longer nowadays. They want to make sure because it's a smart decision essentially to make sure you have enough money because things are just going to keep getting expensive. Nothing's going to get cheaper or stay the same. It's just going to keep going up. So, and thinking like this is very smart. Moving on. Next up, changing cultural expectations, which was mentioned a lot in this like so far, but this is the slide just this in general. So focus shifts on why like family like why like parents wait longer to have kids or as couples or yeah. So their focus has shifted to individual achievement and development, which is which mainly focuses on going to college and getting a job, which was also mentioned earlier. The effect on family planning, changing cultural expectations have had is that more people are deciding to have fewer children or none at all. People growing to be more accepting of various family structures, and then couples wanting to have a smaller family. And then finally, some community impacts that changing cultural expectations have are people now have different views on marriage, family, and lifestyle, increasing acceptance of various different ways of living, and normalizing people want to make their own choices of family structure. So some limitations and drawbacks of previous research include difficulty comparing data across countries due to different data definitions, meaning like different countries have like different ways of reporting, which kind of leaves it like inconsistent when you try to report for it, and then kind of like leads into methods of reporting are also different among countries. There's also other problems include possible forms of bias in evaluation and analysis, as like different countries are probably like that like aren't shown to a lot of different countries aren't shown to agree on things, as we're starting to see a little bit more nowadays. More standardized approaches for collecting data and reporting are needed. And then there's not a lot of reliable data on fertility rates in developing countries since it's also hard to compare. Like developing and developed countries are hard to compare. Not a lot of the data is accurate or precise, and that makes it harder to analyze and determine solutions. And then long-term studies are needed to understand changes in fertility rates, which are unfortunately probably not going to find a lot of people who are willing to take part in that. And but that's like the only way this data is going to be accurate. And then further issues include that it's like not having good enough research will slow down the development of effective solutions for discussing fertility issues, and that leads into it making it harder to understand why fertility rates change over time, since there's not a lot of forms of research, and also not the research isn't like done like wouldn't say it's done completely wrong, but it's also not done entirely correct, and it's not shown to be entirely accurate. While some might be true, others like there's some like errors in it. Directions for future research include focusing on normalizing the collection of data and reporting, and discussing financial and demographic disparities among people in developing and developed countries and be able to compare them better and more accurately, and planning long-term studies on fertility rates and the effects of fertility because some people are gonna have to be able to do this, and it's not something that's gonna be and to be done correctly, it's not something that's gonna be easier or quick. So someone's gonna be able to take the time to do this and do it correctly. To conclude, family sizes have shrunk due to many factors. Research continues to be done on this trend in countries all over the world. Areas of focus include effect on community standards, economic structures, and then mental health in various communities. The overall goal is that people will continue to be accepting of various family structures, adapt to them, and refrain from any negativity towards any non-traditional structured family. And then these are the references I used. And that's it.